This video is part one of a three-part series. The full series will reveal fundamental concerns about the calculation of global average temperature and the very concept of a global average temperature. In truth, this was not the original aim of this video. The original aim was to analyse the impact made by the year 2023 on the annual temperatures of the contiguous US, the Hawaiian region and the continent of North America. It was intended as a follow-up to this channel's previous two videos that had analysed the regions of Antarctica, the Arctic and Oceania. The analysis was conducted in response to statements such as these. In July 2023, the UN Secretary-General warned that the era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived. Later, when the annual temperature data for 2023 was collected and released on January 12, 2024, NOAA announced that 2023 was the world's warmest year on record. On the very same day, the UK Met Office also announced that 2023 was the warmest year on record globally. All these pronouncements contain two implicit assumptions. These crucial assumptions are that during 2023, all the globe was warming and that all regions of the world experienced a record annual temperature during 2023. No doubt many would reasonably accept that certain small regions of the globe, because of local conditions, might be the exceptions that prove the global rule. However, this channel's previous two videos unearthed a conundrum that threatened the validities of these assumptions and thus prompted a wider scope for this video. We analysed the regions of Antarctica, the Arctic and Oceania. The findings of the analysis of the three regions are summarised thus. 2023 was not the warmest year on record for the large and significant regions of Antarctic, Arctic and Oceania. And at the end of year 2023, all three regions were on a cooling trend. The Arctic region has been cooling 2016 to 2023. Oceania has been cooling 2013 to 2023 and the Antarctic has been cooling 2001 to 2023. These results of the three region analysis posed a conundrum. The conundrum can be expressed as: it is widely believed that 2023 was the warmest year on record around all the globe. Yet, three very large regions of the globe did not experience an unusually warm 2023 and are in fact cooling. The revised objectives of this video are therefore to analyse further regions and continents of the globe with regard to the year 2023 and to attempt to resolve the issues unearthed by the analysis. That brings the introduction to an end. The further contents will be analysis of the contiguous US and Hawaiian regions, an analysis of the continent of North America, an analysis of all the globe's continents. The results of the analysis are brought together and summarised. And finally, there is a broad discussion detailing lines of inquiry that in turn reveal fundamental concerns regarding the calculation of global average temperature. First, the analysis of the contiguous US and Hawaiian regions. For the analysis of the contiguous US and Hawaiian regions, we will, as usual, present some historical trends for context and then use a recent period to determine the impact of the year 2023 on each region. First, the contiguous area of the US. The contiguous United States consists of the 48 adjoining US states and the District of Columbia. It does not include the Alaska or Hawaiian region. We asked what was the impact of 2023, the warmest year on record, on the contiguous US region. NOAA records for the US begin in 1895. From 1895 to 1920, there was a steady cooling trend of minus 0.87 degrees Fahrenheit per century, with the annual temperatures almost always below the NOAA 1901 to 2000 reference mean of 52.02 degrees Fahrenheit. For the next 77 years, from 1921 to 1997 inclusive, the annual average temperature initially warmed, but overall remained practically steady at an overall trend of minus 0.04 degrees Fahrenheit per century. Over the next period, 1998 to 2014, despite one quite high annual temperature anomaly in 2012, the trend for the period was one of cooling at minus 4.74 degrees Fahrenheit per century. We come to the recent period, which will be used to judge the impact of 2023, 2015 to 2022. The contiguous US experienced a sharp cooling trend of minus 12.5 degrees Fahrenheit per century. So what was the impact of 2023? 2023 was a warm year in the US, but it does not stand out as especially warm over this period. It was in fact cooler than 2016, 2017 and 2021, and much the same as 2015 and 2020. As a result, the cooling trend of minus 12.5 was slightly modified to the still significant minus 6.3 degrees Fahrenheit per century. The Hawaiian region. We asked what was the impact of 2023, the warmest year on record, on the Hawaiian region. NOAA data records begin in 1910. From a cold start during 1910 to 1939, the regional average annual temperature gradually warmed at a rate of 2.13 degrees Celsius per century. Then, for the next 75 inclusive years, from 1940 right up to 2014, annual average temperatures went up and down as they do, the net result being that the annual average temperature was close to a flat line at a trend of 0.05 degrees Celsius per century. Then, from January 2015 through to December 2022, despite several warm years, the Hawaiian region annual average temperature went on a sharp cooling trend of minus 9.27 degrees Celsius per century. What was the impact of 2023? The globally warm year of 2023 was not reflected in the Hawaiian region. The anomaly of 0.49 degrees Celsius was cooler than all years of this period apart from 2021. As a result, the previous sharp cooling trend of minus 9.27 was barely changed at a still quite intense cooling of minus 8.33 degrees Celsius per century. With that, the analysis of the US and Hawaiian regions is complete, and we can begin the analysis of the entire continent of North America, which is the third largest continent on the planet. It does of course include the contiguous US, which we have already analysed, but covering the entire continent is very revealing. we asked what was the impact of 2023, the warmest year on record, on the continent of North America. NOAA data for North America begins in 1910. The annual average temperature anomalies of the early period 1910 to 1923 was mostly below the 1910 to 2000 average reference period, but was gradually warming at a trend rate of 1.18 degrees Celsius per century. Then, over the following 63 years, the temperature hovered below and above this reference period, and in practical terms was close to stable, albeit at a slightly cooling trend of minus 0.04 degrees Celsius per century. From 1987 onwards, a series of short cycles can be seen where an initial warm year is followed by cooler years, resulting in a short cooling trend. 1987 to 1997 typifies this behaviour. The initial warm year of 1987 resulted in a cooling trend of minus 3.43 degrees Celsius per century. Similarly, from 1998 to 2009, a cooling trend of minus 6.02 degrees Celsius per century took place. And again, from 2010 to 2015, a cooling trend of minus 10.63 degrees Celsius per century resulted. Given these three short, sharp cycles, we now arrive at the most recent period that will allow us to judge the impact of 2023. That is 2016 to 2022. The pattern is repeated, this time with a cooling trend of minus 9.36 degrees Celsius per century. Given four similar cycles leading up to 2022, what happened next in 2023? It looks as if another cycle has started in 2023, which was a warm year, but not exceptionally, as it was only marginally warmer than 2016. Leaving aside the consideration that this might simply be the start of another cycle, if we instead include the warm temperature of 2023 into this most recent cycle, the cooling trend of 2016 to 2022, minus 9.36, remains a cooling trend for 2016 to 2023, although at the reduced rate of minus 0.27 degrees Celsius per century. The previous three regional summary can now be updated to include the contiguous US and Hawaiian regions, as well as the continent of North America. The summary will also include one other very surprising and very large region. 2023 was not the warmest year on record for the large and significant regions of Antarctic, Arctic, Oceania, the contiguous US and the Hawaiian region. In addition, 2023 was only 0.03 degrees Celsius warmer than 2016 for the world's third largest continent of North America. Furthermore, all five regions were on cooling trends. The Antarctic has been cooling 2001 to 2023. The Arctic region has been cooling 2016 to 2023. Oceania has been cooling 2013 to 2023. The contiguous US has been cooling 2015 to 2023, and the Hawaiian region has been cooling 2015 to 2023. The North America continent has also been cooling from 2016 to 2023. And finally, the big surprise. The Southern Hemisphere. The Southern Hemisphere was on a cooling trend 2016 to 2022, The trend was minus 2.25 degrees Celsius per century. What was the impact of 2023? 2023 was a warm year in the Southern Hemisphere, but not too exceptional, as it was just 1/10 of a degree Celsius warmer than it was in 2016 and 2019. With the result that the Southern Hemisphere cooling trend 2016 to 2022 of minus 2.25 was modified to the cooling but nearly flat line trend of minus 0.01 degrees Celsius per century. We now update the regional analysis to say not only was the Southern Hemisphere on a cooling trend 2016 to 2022, but also it remains on an almost stable but still slightly cooling trend 2016 to 2023. Having completed that task, we now discuss the results of the analysis, which, when closely examined, provoke numerous queries and implications. The discussion will not cover all such points, but will focus on the following. A straightforward verdict on the validity of the two implicit assumptions. Then we ask, if the Southern Hemisphere is cooling and parts of the Northern Hemisphere are cooling, what is warming? This is followed by the dangers generated by statements such as those of the NOAA, United Nations and UK Met Office. Such emphatic statements are in danger of suppressing important lines of inquiry. Examples of such lines of inquiry are discussed in some detail. We finish with a brief introduction to this channel's next video, which is very relevant to the contents of this video. It concerns the self-fulfilling prophecy contained in the IPCC definition of global warming. First, the verdict on the validity of the two implicit assumptions that during 2023, all the globe was warming and all regions of the world experienced a record annual temperature. However, this channel's analysis has demonstrated that vast regions of the globe are in fact cooling, and vast and very significant regions of the globe did not experience a record annual temperature in 2023. The two implicit assumptions are therefore invalid, as are these statements and many other statements like them. At best they are misleading, but there is much to support the claim that they are also dangerously misleading. We will return to specific examples of those dangers in section 3. First, we ask the question: if this Southern Hemisphere is cooling and parts of the Northern Hemisphere are cooling, what is warming? To attempt an answer, we will very briefly repeat some analysis already covered and start from a global perspective. Up to 2022, the globe had been on a cooling trend dating from the year 2016, but then, quote, the warmest year on record happened in 2023. It was in fact only 0.16 degrees Celsius warmer than 2016, but nevertheless did produce a warming global trend 2016 to 2023 of 1.14 degrees Celsius per century. We now look at the Southern Hemisphere over the same period. From 2016 to 2022, the Southern Hemisphere was on a cooling trend of minus 2.25 degrees Celsius per century. 2023 was only 0.1 degrees Celsius warmer than 2016, but still did put the Southern Hemisphere on an almost stable trend of minus 0.01 degrees Celsius per century. What of the Northern Hemisphere? As with the globe and the Southern Hemisphere, for the period 2016 to 2022, the Northern Hemisphere was on a cooling trend of minus 0.68 degrees Celsius per century. 2023 was 0.2 degrees Celsius warmer than 2016 and 0.17 degrees Celsius warmer than 2020. So that by the end of 2023, the Northern Hemisphere was on a warming trend since 2016 of 2.08 degrees Celsius per century. As this rate is greater than the 1.14 of the globe and the negative trend of the Southern Hemisphere, a line of thought occurred. It appears to be that it is mainly the Northern Hemisphere which is warming over the recent period 2016 to 2023. But the world's third largest continent of North America is part of the Northern Hemisphere and has been on a cooling trend since 2016. It seems we need to dig a little deeper and briefly look at each continent of the globe. We know that North America, Antarctica and Australia, as part of Oceania, are not warming from at least 2016. So, we will examine the remaining 4 continents. As Africa and South America are spread across both hemispheres, we start with these 2 continents. First, Africa, which is the world's second largest continent. From 2016 to 2022, Africa was on a cooling trend of minus 3.39 degrees Celsius per century. The average annual temperature in 2023 was marginally higher by 0.12 degrees Celsius than that of 2016. This brought about the slightly warming trend from 2016 to 2023 of 0.19 degrees Celsius per century. This is very close to a flat line of stability, so we judge Africa to be marginally warming. Next, South America. For the period 2016 to 2022, it was on a cooling trend of minus 3.11 degrees Celsius per century. 2023 was, however, a significantly warmer year, which resulted in a warming trend from 2016 to 2023 of plus 2.82 degrees Celsius per century, which must qualify South America as a continent that is warming over this recent period. Next, Asia, which is the world's largest continent and is made up of numerous countries including China, India, Turkey and Russia, and is almost exclusively in the Northern Hemisphere. From 2016 to 2022, Asia was warming at a trend of 4 degrees Celsius per century. 2023 was a warm year, but was not Asia's warmest year on record, which had occurred in 2020. The net result from 2016 to 2023 being a sharp and significant warming trend of 5.25 degrees Celsius per century. Asia has thus certainly been warming during this recent period. Finally, Europe. Over the recent period 2016 to 2022, Europe was on a warming trend of plus 4.79 degrees Celsius per century. 2023 was a warm year, but it was not as warm as 2020 and thus not the warmest year on record. But Europe at the end of 2023 emphatically answers the question, what is warming? As from 2016 to 2023, Europe has been warming at a linear trend rate of 6.71 degrees Celsius per century, and thus is making a large contribution to the calculation of global warming. This leads to another line of thought. Could it be that the northern hemisphere continents of Asia and Europe are making a disproportionate impact on the calculation of global average temperature? We will evaluate this notion in the next section, but for now we need to update this summary of the analysis so far completed. We now know the regions and continents that did experience their warmest years on record in 2023. It was only Africa, North America and South America. The regions and continents that did not experience their warmest year on record during 2023 are Arctic, Antarctic, Asia, Europe, Oceania / Australia, Hawaiian region and the contiguous US. This imbalance is not making sense, but it is probable that more than one viewer is pointing out that so far our analysis has not included over 70% of the Earth's surface. The oceans. The Southern Hemisphere ocean was on a cooling trend from 2016 to 2022 of -1.96 degrees Celsius per century. 2023 was a warm year, but only marginally warmer by 0.08 degrees Celsius than the temperature of 2016. The net effect was to revert to a very slight warming trend of 0.1 degrees Celsius per century. Coincidentally, the Northern Hemisphere ocean had been on an almost identical trend from 2016 to 2022 of 0.11 degrees Celsius per century. 2023 was the warmest temperature of the recent period, although only 0.16 degrees Celsius warmer than 2020. This, however, was enough to increase its warming trend to 2.25 degrees Celsius per century. We should therefore update this chart to show that the oceans of the Southern Hemisphere and Northern Hemisphere both had their respective warmest years on record, and we also need to add the entire Southern Hemisphere to this chart that shows locales that are currently on a cooling trend since at least 2016. The concise results of the analysis of 2023 can therefore now be stated as very large regions and continents of the globe did not record their respective warmest year on record during 2023. Very large regions and continents of the globe have in fact been on a cooling trend since at least 2016, and the entire Southern Hemisphere remains on a cooling trend from 2016 to 2023, all of which firmly contradicts the assumptions that during 2023 all the globe was warming and all regions of the world experienced a record annual temperature, despite the fact that those assumptions are implicit in these statements. We can now go further into why these statements are dangerously misleading. Such statements are dangerous because they suppress important lines of inquiry into the immense complexity of climate science. We will explore such lines of inquiry in part 2 of the series, where we examine suppressed lines of inquiry such as: why are the annual average temperatures and trend rates of the Northern Hemisphere different to those of the Southern Hemisphere? If you appreciated this video, please like and subscribe. You are also invited to join our community on locals.com. You can click on the button below to connect directly with our locals.com website. You may also be interested in this video, released some time ago.